Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. We are the Pittsburgh Java user group. Renat and I. Renat, say hi. Wave your hand, yes.
Hello.
Renat and I, we host these sessions for, I guess, like just generally everyone who's interested in learning with us. You can learn more about our events on the Pittsburgh Java Meetup group, which is where you signed up and you were able to join us. We also have a Twitter account. You can follow us there for more Java news and just generally about our events. All of our recordings from 2021 and 2022 are up on our YouTube channel. So you should definitely subscribe to the channel so you get notified as soon as we upload a new video. And our official sponsor is JFrog. We'd like to thank them, and they supported us through this entire year, and we are extremely thankful for that. And with that, I will hand it off to Bryan and Istvan to present.
Istvan, go for it.
Hey, hello everyone. My name is Istvan Bathazi. I'm currently working as a software engineer for Palmetto GBA, also as a DevOps advocate for all our efforts on that side. We currently located in, even though I'm locally in Pittsburgh, I'm still work-wise located in South Carolina. This Blue Cross, Palmetto GBA is a Blue Cross Blue Shield subsidiary, and we are working on Medicare contracts for the company.
Yeah, and I'm Bryan Fenster. I've been a software engineer for longer than some of the people that I work with have been alive. I've spent a lot of that time working in supply chain software and then moved to platform engineering. I'm founded and led the Walmart DevOps Dojo for several years. And I am currently a value stream architect for a company called Defense Unicorns, where we work a lot of federal government, working on some really hard delivery problems. If you can think of water-gapped environments, I think that's one of the problems that we try to solve. And there we go. Now I'm sharing my screen. So, and Istvan and I are here talking about a community project that we're part of called minimumcd.org and how it can make your lives better.
So minimum, what is continuous delivery? Minimum CD is about continuous delivery. The definition from the continuous delivery book by David Farley and Jez Humble is continuous delivery is the ability to get changes to all types into a production safely, quickly, in a sustainable way. And our primary goal for this effort was to create a streamlined or a simplified explanation of what you can do or what you need to do to make that happen in your organization to see the benefits which are promised from the CD.
Yeah, and the reason why we are working on this is because both of us have experienced what happens when you implement a continuous delivery workflow. So for example, this here is actually one of my old teammates from Walmart, where we were on the team piloting continuous delivery, like one of the very first teams in Walmart doing the continuous delivery. And the reason we were doing it wasn't to make our lives better. The reason we were doing it is because we were delivering every quarter with like war rooms every quarter that were scheduled. Like you knew that after every delivery, you were going to be scheduled for 24/7 support for at least a week, probably longer, while things exploded on this giant monolithic application we were delivering. And our management wanted us to do that every 2 weeks. Now, it seems a little terrifying, but we took that challenge and we started digging into it. We actually bought copies of continuous delivery to try to figure out how we could get this done, and then came back to our management with, no, actually 2 weeks is way too long. It's too scary. We should do this daily. And there was a lot to that. I actually need to write down what all that was. It actually involved re-architecting teams and working on how we could re-architect the application and lots of things. But over time, we actually managed to get from delivering every quarter to delivering multiple times a day on each team, with the unexpected benefit that it improved our morale. We just had way more fun. We had far less issues to resolve, and so this is why we really want to focus on this. And Istvan, I think you've got some stories too.
Yeah, I mean, similarly to that, to yours, when at the very first team we started to experiment with the CD and create continuous integration. I mean, the benefits were mind-blowing. I mean, once you start to be able to set up and streamline your processes, figuring out what's holding you back, and you can put it in a simplified, repeatable process to be able to deliver to your customers, and you can get quick feedback from the customer. I mean, it just makes it so much more fun. All the toil, which sucks the soul out of you as part of your regular routine when you're not following CD, is just slowly started to disappear, and development and delivering product become fun again.
No, actually, we gave a presentation in 2017 at DevOps Enterprise Summit. We literally had a slide with like a beating heart that said it made us love development again. There you go. And then in 2018, Accelerate came out. If you haven't read Accelerate, I recommend it. But one of the things they talk about in Accelerate is that they said continuous delivery improves delivery performance, quality, culture, reduces burnout, and reduces deployment pain, which completely mirrored our experience. This is exactly what we saw, and it was very validating to see them report that this wasn't some local thing that we were experiencing just in our area. And they also came out with DORA metrics. Now, I've talked many times. If you go out and look, you can find how to misuse and abuse DORA metrics. But they have these DORA metrics out here, and they talked about how the high and medium and low performers, what those metrics look like. And so, what management hears is, okay, well, we need to ship faster to be on a high performing organization, right? And so we need CD, do CD. And then problems begin. And so we're here to talk about some of those problems, and then also how to try to avoid them. But the first problem we're going to talk about is credit card continuous delivery. So this is where you buy all the tools, and then everybody gets a pipeline, right? It's like we just hand out pipelines left and right, and now you're doing continuous delivery because you have the tools, and mission accomplished, right? And the outcomes we see from that is it doesn't work real well, right? You start blowing up production really fast because we didn't learn how to deliver safely. We didn't learn how to break things down small. We didn't really focus on what's required to do continuous delivery. Things start exploding. And then you hear this from leadership: the CD won't work here. We're a special snowflake, or CD is just far too risky. That experiment's not going to work, or you're just not mature enough. And we've literally had people report to us that CD has been banned in their environment, which means that company's done improving until they change leadership.
And the next one is CD in name only. Right? I mean, what CD means? Delivery on demand. Or customers don't want changes too fast. We're gonna stuck with what worked for the past 20 years. We're just gonna deliver it safely every quarter, every 6 months. That way we can continue to do the proper processes, what we used to do. But you see, we are doing CD, we have a pipeline. Don't worry about it. It's gonna succeed with no benefits.
Yeah, my favorite is when they say our customers don't want change more frequently. And after carrying a pager for as long as I have, I assure you that that's not true.
So then that takes us to like, but why are we expecting different results? Because nothing really changed. The behavior stayed the same. You're still following the old processes. The batch size stayed as large as it used to. We are batching months of work. Nobody remembers what they were working 3 months ago, but we are still batching it together. Feedback remain extremely slow. Whatever you commit, and by the time it makes it to the customer, it might be not even relevant anymore. The quality process does not change because we are not doing the practices what would require to do the CD. The automation to deliver, the adding unit test, adding smoke test, whatever testing, what you can add automation around it to harden your pipeline are not there. The communication didn't change. We are still doing the same old way, developing the stuff. So as a result, CD just becomes a buzzword. And
yeah, I mean,
the team's not going to see the benefits from it.
Yeah, I mean, if all we're doing is just automating our current process, but we're not really focusing on reducing batch size, trying to accelerate delivery, uncovers so much. And if all we do is say, okay, well, we've automated build and deploy, and deploy, at the same rate, we won't find those problems.
Then we were last year, October 2021, the DevOps Enterprise Summit, where we just came from. We spent the past 3 days over there with Bryan. And we were doing it in a virtual world called Gather Town. And for the summit, they built a Dockside Bar. And a couple people, in one of the lunch break, I believe, if I remember right, we get together and just start to talk about the problems. And it was amazing that everybody who started to join the conversation, they all experienced the same or similar problems what we were facing at our organization. So we left with 2 options: gripe about it and just continue on that meeting, or help to fix it.
Yeah, and I'll say that in this picture, there's only 5 people, but that's just because that was what captured this picture. We had a lot of people come by and join this conversation over the 3 days of the conference last year.
We had like 40 plus people least who were part of that initial. We had a Word doc or Google Doc. That's how we started.
Oh yeah, we started with a Google Doc and we started throwing stuff out. But yeah, we decided that, look, we could just gripe about it and tell people they're doing things wrong, or we could try to do something to help people on this journey, because it is a journey. Everybody keeps starting at the Agile Manifesto, which is painful to watch. How do we help accelerate that? And so we chose number 2, and so we had some goals.
And our journey began. And our first couple goals are just to define the bare minimum behaviors and practices what you can follow to start to see the benefits from CD. And the other goal was that it's applicable for all context. You can use a mobile app, web app, cloud, bare metal, air gap, water gap, space gap. Doesn't matter. You should be able to apply these practices. And if you follow these simple, basic, minimum steps, then you're going to be able to see the benefits. It's almost like a checkbox style to, hey, if you do these things, you're going to start to see the benefits.
Yeah, and that was important to us, that they were measurable, right? That these were not like principles that you can be kind of vague about, that these were practices where you could say in a binary manner, we are either doing this or we are not doing this, so that you can measure your path along the way. And Istvan talks about being true in every environment. We had people there representing just about every sort of deployment environment you can represent, everything from the normal stuff that you're used to. Hey, we're going to public cloud. We also had people there representing mainframe. I was there representing, we need to deploy to a submarine. And so you have to imagine that we were being very, being just relentless at paring things down to, it has to be true in all these environments. The other thing was that there was things that were good ideas, and people would present these as good ideas. And we'd say, yes, those are really good ideas, and we recommend that you do those, but they're not absolutely required to see the benefits. We want to be absolute as minimum as we could be. And you got to ask, why do we care?
I mean, the main goal is that everywhere should be an awesome place to work. So how you can accomplish that? Deploy more, sleep better. So if you can start to do the CD and start to do the best practice or the good practices, what comes with CD, you're going to be able to accomplish that development becomes fun again and everybody happy, nice, better results for your customer, better results for your developers, less burnout. And I believe we have papers and data what supports once people start to doing these practices from multiple books now and multiple research, you're gonna be able to see those results as the value streams start to help to deliver things better.
I don't know about you, Istvan, but I'm completely motivated by self-interest. If I change positions, I don't want to go somewhere and have to start over from scratch and try to convince them CD is a good idea. I just want to walk in and be able to deliver stuff and enjoy life.
Yeah.
Starting from scratch is really, really hard. And so 3 days later, we published a website, minimumcd.org. And we're talking to people inside and outside the conference and saying, hey, take a look at this. And if you agree, send us a pull request and sign on to it. If there's something you'd like to improve, then join the conversation and try to improve it. And then, today, this is where we're at, is we have 39 contributors globally. You can see, where some of those contributors live. We have 124 signatures. And one of those comes from Dave Farley, the co-author of Continuous Delivery. About a week after we published the website, I sent Dave a link and I said, hey, take a look at this and tell us if you agree. And he came back with a pull request to tweak some language on something he thought was pretty important to make sure it was worded this way, and sent us a signature, which told me we were on the right track.
Yep.
So what are we talking about here, Istvan?
Yeah, and so the constraints that drive these improvements, right? These are the bare minimums, what we kind of defined as part of these collaborations from all around the world. What's required? So use continuous integration. I mean, continuous integration is literally the heartbeat of CD. Without continuous integration, there is no CD. Continuous integration is to ensure that you are continuously improving and constantly hardening your pipeline. The second one was the application pipeline is the only way to deploy to any environment. There is no exception. Hotfix, feature, doesn't matter. Everything has to, there is no manual step in this process. That way you're always following the same thing. There is no manual mistake. There are no possibility to fail. At least if you fail, you're gonna fail consistently and you're gonna have a way to fix it, because now you have a pipeline which can be hardened and make it better. Then another big part is that you have to define what's deployable. The definition of deployable is going to be different for every organization, or probably even in the same organization, different teams might have a different application for what's the definition of deployable. But that definition of deployable is driven by your pipeline. Artifact is created by that pipeline, and that pipeline is the ultimate decision maker. Is this artifact is something we can release to our customer? Also really important that the artifact what you generate is immutable. No, oh yeah, we just have to open that file, make a couple changes here and there, and then we can release it to production. Nothing. If it has to be changed, then it has to go back to the pipeline through the version control. There are no exceptions. If the pipeline turns red, the team stops everything and they go back and make sure that the pipeline turns green again, because all feature works pretty much on halt if you are red, because as we discussed earlier, pipeline is the ultimate decider what can deliver, and that's the only way to any environment. If your pipeline is red, that means you cannot deliver. If the pipeline is red, if you have a hotfix or if you have any kind of production issue, you're not going to be able to deploy, because now you cannot meet your requirements. Other really important part is you have to have like a production-like test environment. That way you can ensure that whatever you run in the test environment is as close as possible to your production environment. That's to ensure quality and to make sure that the definition of deployable met by those tests and those hardening. Rollback on demand. So if something goes south, you have a way to roll back automatically those problems from your production environment, so your customers have less impact. And another really important, application configurations. So application configurations are just like any other code. Everything is code. So you have to follow everything code. Configuration code, artifact has to be version tracked to some of the version control, Git, GitHub, Bitbucket, and SVN, whatever you choose, but it has to be through version control.
So we're not going to talk in detail about all of these because it would take a long time, but what we're going to do is we're going to touch on some of these that we think are very critical and just kind of give examples and deep dive of how these things drive improvement. And so, of course, the first we're going to talk about is continuous integration. Right?
That's heartbeat, right? So to do continuous integration, I mean, I think what we defined is that you have to follow trunk-based development, because that ensures that everybody has the latest code and you're only working against the trunk and everything is being tested. The tested changes integrate to the trunk least daily. Work integrates, sorry, I lost my thoughts. The work is tested with other automation automatically on merge. So you merge into your branch or to your trunk, from your branch, it automatically executes those changes. The new work does not break delivery work, so that's really important. Broken builds fixed immediately by the team, because this is a team commitment. It's not an individual. If there's individual does not break the pipeline. It's a team effort. So if something breaks, the team gets together and figure out how it can turn that thing green again, because without it, everybody is standing behind it and they cannot deliver the deliverable.
Yeah.
Yep.
And for this, and that last thing about the team fixing the build, early on when we were looking at this sort of thing, I saw all sorts of stuff about people having t-shirts to wear or dunce hats to wear to say, I broke the build, or have like a troll doll that went on their desk or a trophy that says, I broke the build. And honestly, that's just really destructive behavior. We as a team broke the build because we as a team didn't have the pre-commit processes in place to prevent the build from getting broken. So it's not you broke the build, haha. It's like, how can we as a team harden our processes so that bad commits are rejected automatically instead of it making it to the trunk and breaking the build? And it's, why can't we do this? This is literally something that when at Walmart, when we were piloting this, I was the lead on one of the teams trying to work on this. And I wrote down, why can't we deliver daily, and posted it in our team area. And then we just daily hammered that problem. What's the problem today? What's blocking today? And what you find is that it uncovers all kinds of problems. You find out that you've got really poor communication, and it could be within the team. It could be communication with the product owner. It could be that you've got entangled communication with other teams where you have to deliver at the same time. You find out that work decomposition sucks. One of the things that we discovered not too long after we went down this path is by the time we decomposed work to the level required for CI to work effectively, story points were pointless because we were decomposing work. So it took 1 or 2 days so that we could get the level of detail, so that we could understand what to test, so that we could do continuous integration. And so this whole planning poker thing or debating how many story points thing, that all went away. And instead of doing that, we could focus on just delivering things. You find out that the team doesn't understand how to do evolutionary development. Teams are in a habit of, we're going to deliver feature complete and everything has to work at this level, instead of every change I make has to be backwards compatible, so that I can safely deploy that change into production at 3 o'clock in the morning if it's important, without breaking anything. You have to learn how to do that. You'll find that testing is a struggle. In the dojo, when we were working with teams, I can't tell you how many teams either didn't know how to test or knew the basics of unit testing, but they didn't really understand the layers of testing required to understand, to get the confidence that this is probably deployable. And teamwork. And this is generally the fault of management, where you'll have teams where people are assigned work to do and they think that's normal, instead of we as a team need to deliver the highest priority thing. And the level of teamwork required to make CI function, because I can't wait for someone to do a pull. I can't wait like 4 or 8 hours for someone to pick up a code review. You know, how do we shrink that time so that we can get everybody's code onto the trunk today? All of these things become struggles that we need to fix. And they become very clear when you try to do CI. But the benefit of that is it makes everything suck so much less. That work starts happening. We have a much higher level of confidence. We have more clarity in the requirements. We have to fix so many things to get this done.
And as you mentioned earlier, we have one path to any environment, and that's through the pipeline. I mean, that's why it's really, really important to improve the quality of that process. Once you start to hardening your pipeline in the proper way, that's gonna reduce the overhead. It's gonna hopefully reduce your handoffs, as mentioned earlier by Bryan, that even the PR approval. So how you can figure out that even some of those PR approvals based on what kind of change it is, to reduce as many handoffs as possible. Both Bryan and me are coming from heavily regulated environments, and the amount of regulations we have to abide by is makes it, you have to be creative to be able to do those steps. But if you can accomplish that, then it's going to ensure that you're going to have less problems, it's going to have less incidents, and it's going to, your application just becomes a much safer or much easier to manage for long term.
And this is the other thing, is that if you have one path to every single environment, which means that we don't have a process where we're going to create a dev branch to ship to dev and a test branch to ship to test. You know, we're going to have one way to go to every environment, which means we're also validating the way that we deliver. You know, and you know, one of the things we touched on that we're not going to do a deep dive into is that that we have immutable artifacts. And when we first started this, we would have issues, you know, on my first team, we'd have issues where we would run the pipeline and it would fail in the integration test environment because of a configuration error. And the default that, you know, like the natural response is, oh, we need to change the configuration error on that one environment and then restart the pipeline from that point. And I'm like, no, because the rules say that we need an immutable artifact and we're validating the entire pipeline, not just the code. So we need to change the configuration and version control and rerun the pipeline from scratch, because that's the right thing to do, because then we don't have a snowflake environment.
Yeah, and that's every time you run this process, it's test not just the code, what you delivered, but the whole end-to-end process.
Yes.
Hardening is extremely important. And as you're getting more mature and getting better, I mean, that's gonna enable you to do bourbon-driven development, as Bryan like to call it. Like when you wake up at 3 a.m. half drunk, you still can commit, and your pipeline's gonna save your ass to make sure that you're not committing something to production.
You know, I'll tell you, Istvan, there was a time when you know, we'd gotten relatively good at this, and then my team was put on a death march, and I remember a time when my teammate and I were up at like 11 o'clock at night, trying to, you know, working at the end of like a 18-hour day. And I was just so frustrated and annoyed with my leadership that I was drinking rum so I could calm down enough to code, and our test suite made that safe. But the other thing is, and this is, you know, important, you know, the reducing handoffs. if we have one path to the environment, we have one method to go to the environment. So imagine this, our normal process, if it includes, we have to send our code to the QA team so that they can do a full set of tests in the, to make sure it can be deployable. I mean, are we going to do that in the middle of the night?
Mhm.
And this is the secret, right? We create an emergency process for delivery. We don't have a separate hotfix process, right, Istvan?
Yeah, I mean, drama-driven development, right? Or delivery, not development, DDD. And the whole goal for this to remove that from the vision, I mean, from the process. So the secret is it's always an emergency. Doesn't matter hotfix or the house is burning behind you, as long as you have a proper CD pipeline configured. I mean, you are following the same process for everything. Feature, not feature, emergency, hotfix can flow through the same process.
Yeah, so when you're designing what your pipeline is going to do, what those gates are going to do, and how it's going to work, think about, we are building this so that we can safely deploy a security patch or fix an incident when we're tired in the middle of the night when it's an emergency. This has to work this way. And then when we're delivering features, what we're doing is we're validating that our emergency process works. So when it is an emergency, we know that it works. We have a high level of confidence. We're not going to throw gasoline on something that's already a dumpster fire.
And as also mentioned, pipeline decides what's releasable. I mean, we cannot inspect the quality by reviewing the work at the end. So it has to have proper hardening. And as the pipeline runs, it executes every single one of those hardening steps and make sure that your artifacts meets the releasable state. That, I mean, if you build in the build quality into our system, then your delivery is going to guarantee that whatever you actually produced is going to be safe to run in production.
Yeah, and so this really forces us to focus on, what does that mean, right? Are we using emotion? Do we go to CAB and have somebody say, oh, well, yeah, this feels like you've done the right things, or are we baking those things to the pipeline? So, you know, the work I do every day right now, I'm working with the Air Force. We're working on how do we deliver to secure environments? Do I wait for, do I wait for an annual review of whether we're secure or not? Or do we make sure that every single change we make is secure, right? This is so important that we are certifying the way we deliver is secure, compliant, that it ensures that we're delivering the right thing, that we're not trying to do inspection at the end.
Yeah, we're embedding the requirements into the pipeline so that every chain, not just the functionality, but the security, the compliance, everything is part of this hardening. And if you can make that happen, then security and compliance becomes automated. You could run your, I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with like the ATO, the authorization technical overview process. I mean, technically, if you can put all your hardening into, you could run your ATO, which usually takes 6 months to a year.
A year? Are you kidding?
Or 18 months.
If you're in the federal government, an authority to operate can take like 18 months to 2 years for their silly process. Yeah. But I mean, I used to at Walmart, I used to talk to people in compliance like, well, you violated policy. I'm like, okay, so what you said is that you wrote a policy in a Word document and you saved it in a SharePoint somewhere. That doesn't impact my daily work at all. But good, you know, congratulations on your obsolete document that nobody looks at. No, if we can't automate it, it doesn't exist. If it doesn't, it's not in the pipeline, it's fake. So, you know, this is a challenge that we need to answer, right? Is this just another maturity model? Or are we just saying, oh, you need to go through these steps? So it's not a maturity model because we're never mature at this, right? What this is, it's an improvement journey. These are things that you can hammer away at, that as you hammer away at this, you can start seeing the benefits that Accelerate talks about with continuous delivery. And both of us know this personally. The other contributors know this because we have gone on this journey. But what we don't want to see is everyone trying to explore, having to discover this journey on their own with no hints whatsoever. There's so much bad material out there. There's so much misinformation. There's people talking about, that will sell you CI/CD, and all it is the tooling. But we wanted to break this down to, you need to be able to solve these problems so that you can see these benefits. And they're measurable. They're things that you can say, we can or can't do this. And doing that means that you have to lift up the rug and look and see, oh my God, look at all these terrible processes, or we really suck at testing. We need to really dig in and understand how to do contract testing and how to do performance testing and all these things we need to do to make sure that we can deliver. Or, our architecture is a wreck. We can't actually test the things we need to test. We've got these microservices, but we have 4 microservices we have to deliver at the same time. So that's a problem. Or we've, it takes us a day and a half to get any information from the product owner. How do we escalate that to our leadership and say, look, these are real problems we have in our value streams. Focus on this.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Yeah, and additionally, you have processes that you have to abide by, right? So, it's a monthly release. You have to show up in a board and present what you're changing. So they give you the blessings, but those are the really important discoveries you have to do. And I think we forgot to ask the question that mentioned the most important question. What does it take to be able to go to production on the same day? If you can answer, oh yeah, it's the next one, sorry.
Yeah. That's literally what it is
yeah,
why can't we deliver today?
Yeah. And once you open up that look under the rug, you cannot unsee it.
So here's where we start, right? Is first, for your organization, for your application, define what releasable is in measurable ways. For that context, define what that is so that you can say, okay, these are the things we need to make sure in the pipeline.
So first one, where do we start, right? Define releasable in your context. As we mentioned, it's probably different for every organization, every team in the organization, but that's the most important first step. Define what's releasable.
I think you just duplicated me, Istvan.
Did I? Okay.
Yep, but that's okay. I'll take the next one. Fall passionately in love with testing. When I started on this journey, on the very first time we tried to do this, we were looking at, okay, well, now we're going to release daily instead of quarterly. And I realized that none of us really knew how to test well enough to do that safely. And all of us really had to start digging in. And I made testing like my hobby. I bought a copy of XUnit Test Patterns, which is a 900-page book on testing. I dug into everything I could about different testing patterns, in not just unit testing, but how do we do good contract testing? How do we make sure that we've got the right architecture for tests to match the architecture for application? What are good testing smells we should look for? Oh, gee, that end-to-end test that QA is building, why is it so terrible? Oh, that's why. How do we fix it? How do we convince them to make it better? I mean, it became my number one thing I went after was, how do we do better at testing?
Then start with continuous integration, as this is one of the foundation. I mean, without continuous integration, you don't have CD. That's the foundations. So start to doing continuous integration. Run your tests, run your hardening, pre-commit if you can. So even before you commit, if you can execute as many tests of those validation, then less thing to run on remote. So it just makes your delivery much faster and safer.
Yeah, and again, like Istvan said earlier, this is the heartbeat of CD. And this is a team behavior. This is not tooling.
Yes.
It's enabled by tooling, but this is how the team works as a team. Focus on getting good at CI, and you're solving majority of the continuous delivery problem. And then start automating the manual validation releasable. Okay, we've got CI under control, but what are the acceptance tests post-deploy that we need to verify? Are we performant? What's our rejection rate like on requests? Are we secure? Are we meeting all of our compliance checks? Or can we release within this blackout date, or whatever it is that your validation releasable? But don't start with, okay, now we're going to do CD and we're not going to do any manual validation. You're doing manual validation today for a reason, but those are defects that need to be remediated, not just stop doing manual validation, right? List out what you're doing manually and then start hammering at automating those things so that you can get faster feedback on the quality of what we're delivering, so that we can, this is really the point of CD, is that we're delivering things more rapidly in smaller pieces so we can get feedback on whether or not it was valuable to deliver those things at all anyway.
Next one is improve team structure to remove as many handoffs as possible. So once you commit, that as soon as you can, if you can remove many of those manual or half automated that you have to wait on someone handoff, the better you are, because you're gonna get the constant, continuous feedback from your processes. And if you have the previous steps correct, then you're gonna have instantaneous feedback on all those.
Yeah, and this could be stuff inside the team where, we have 8 people doing development, but we have that one guy on the team that has to do code review, or that one guy on the team that has to do testing. We need to fix that, because that won't let us actually implement CI or CD. Or we have a handoff outside the team. And if you read the book Continuous Delivery, or you read a lot of material for the Value Stream Management Consortium, you'll see value stream mapping. And a value stream map is where we list out all of the processes it takes to go from idea to delivery, and identify where all of the handoffs and wait times are, so that we can improve that flow and make it more efficient and improve the communication flow. So look into value stream mapping to diagram what the process is to deliver things, so that you can start making that better. And then relentlessly improve. You're never done improving. I wrote a blog post recently, Istvan, called Stop Doing Retrospectives, where my hypothesis was, based on personal experience, if you stop doing a retrospective every once a sprint and just start making things suck less daily, just like daily, what can we make slightly better? Then you'll be much better off. Just every single day, be dissatisfied with the pain you're in and make it slightly less painful. And
also remember, this is a team effort. So these teams who are working on this have to commit. It's not an individual sport.
Yep.
It's a team effort. So everything what you see over here, the team has to commit and they have to start working on it. Because if only just individuals from the teams are committed, then the likelihood that you're going to be able to see the end results are much, much, much lower. Outside testing teams, everything else, if you can start to figure out how to pull those into your team or as part of the real product to deliver, those are the ones going to give you the benefits.
So we got some feedback on this. I've gotten feedback on LinkedIn that people are using this to help drive improvement in their organization. But we got this feedback from Dave Farley that if you do this, right, it's a clear, focused, no holds barred statement of what it takes to achieve CD. If you can do what minimum CD says, you'll be doing a better job. It gives us a clear, simple focus on the essentials of CD that can help teams to understand what really matters to build better software faster. And I think that made us feel really good, that we distilled things to a point where it gives people a clear path to get started without wading through the deep end of the pool. So we need help.
Absolutely. Everybody, please spread the word. We are accepting contributions, so please contribute for this project. This is not just us. As we mentioned earlier, we have 39, 40 people who are contributors to this project already. And translations, any lessons learned, share what you learn, share information, what you think we could do better, share anything. Just join us. We have a Slack channel. We have a GitHub repo where we can discuss and collaborate with anybody who's willing to take the step to help us to make this better for everybody.
Yeah, I think that's key. I mean, this is an open source project where it's developers trying to help developers live better lives. That's why we're so passionate about it. We want everybody to live the lives that Istvan and I would like to live. And so please feel free to contribute, feel free to join the Slack, feel free to open issues and have conversations. We want that interaction. This is as good as we've made it so far, but we continue to iterate on it. And with that, it's fun.
And thank you again. I hope you guys enjoyed our little talk and presentation, and you guys can learn some from it. This is my contact information. You can find me on LinkedIn or Twitter. My name is Istvan Badhazi again.
Yeah, and this is mine. I'm Bryan Finster. I'm one of the only, I think I'm the only Bryan Finster on the internet. But I have a series of blog posts that titled the 5-Minute DevOps blog. You can reach at rant.bryanfinster.com. And that's literally what they are. Is somebody caused a reason for me to rant about something, and then I tried to make it into useful information. And with that, if we have any questions, I'd love to have a conversation.
Yeah, thank you.
And for questions, people can either unmute or you can also just type them in the chat. And Suresh and I will read them out loud. But no, that was awesome. And
yeah, so many mantras out there. I love the line which says test the process and not just the code.
Yeah,
and that's where we get like bitten so many times with not, just testing the code and not actually having to test the process, and then start to see things falling apart.
Well, and I have a real world example from this week. I got the chat ops message that you never want to get. Somebody from cyber pinged me and told me that I had committed a secret 2 months ago and they needed to reset all of my access tokens. Right now, I'm usually very conscientious about that. And I was like, look, it's not that I don't believe you, but I need to know where that happened so I can identify how that happened. Right. And so he sent me and I had to go to the high side because the government, he couldn't just send it to me on low side chat. I had to go to a secure environment so he could send me the information. And so he showed me where it happened. And I was like, okay, how do I harden the process? How do I make it harder for me to make this mistake?
Mm-hmm.
And then I went and found a ThoughtWorks project called Talisman that will inject a global pre-commit hook that tries to detect secrets and reject your change, reject your commit.
Mm-hmm.
And I installed Talisman on my desktop so that it would reject my commit. And then I told my team about it and I broadcasted it out to the broader community inside my organization and, sent it out to other places like, hey, this happened to me. My postmortem for this is to install this so that it makes it harder for me to make this mistake so that I'm safer. And that's really that process of, we don't fear failure. We learn from failure to harden our process.
Yeah, failure is the best way to learn to make it not happen again.
Yeah, and this ties back to like relentlessly improving, right?
Yeah.
You do that as soon as you learn something, you come back and you share that learning with everyone on the team, with the organization, and you improve continuously.
It's part of the continuous learning.
Yeah, and I think that culture of I failed. I literally went in my company and wrote a blog post about how I failed and what I'd done to correct the failure so that they could go, oh, hey, that's a cool idea, right? Is that we share how we fail even more than we share how we succeed, because everybody else learns from that failure and then they don't fail that way too.
But it has to be a good mindset, just like we best explained earlier, because what was his first step? Not, okay, I'm gonna promise I'm not gonna do it. Went out for a solution and harden the process that it's never going to happen again. Stop doing the workarounds, do the right thing, then you're going to be able to sleep better. Don't be Batman.
Exactly.
Improvement, not apologies.
Don't be Batman. I like that.
No, I've got a logo. A friend of mine when I was at Walmart, he came by my desk one day and went on my whiteboard and went #no Batman. I'm like, okay, explain that to me. He said, well, Batman, he works all day and he's a hero all night. So don't be Batman. And so I like created this logo of like, the Batman logo with a circle slash. It says, don't be Batman, deploy more, sleep better.
That is cool. I'm sure it will sell fast if you actually open it up. That logo or that sticker or whatever. Yeah. Thank you so much. I really enjoyed that. So I think I'll go back and look at the presentation, recording myself once more, just to, there's like so many different things over there.
Yeah, and all the testing stuff is on point, definitely. Everyone needs to improve their testing and variety of testing in order to be able to do this kind of stuff.
Yeah, and
no more excuse, legacy. It's legacy. You can't test this. Yeah, you can. You just have to figure it out.
Yeah, and we're still expanding some of the tips and tricks and things on the website. I mean, the main page that says solve these problems, that's pretty static, right? Nobody has come up in the last year with this is absolutely true in all environments, we should add this. But the reasoning behind that and some of the there's a section we have in there called Beyond the Minimums, where it's like expanding on here's some other good things that may or may not be true in your context that you should look at. And so we're trying to flesh it out and just really create a repository of knowledge to help people, jumpstart and start seeing these benefits.
And if anybody has any questions, feel free to reach out. We would be glad to try to help you any way we can.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome.
Did we get everything okay, we're not already shared the link for minimumcd.org, but in case we need it. I think I have your Twitter handles, which I'll be posting on the tweet itself. I guess that should cover it.
Yep, and we'll have the recording up probably this weekend, and then we can share the video link with you guys so you guys can promote it as well.
Thank you so much.
Yeah,
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
And I'll post you the repo as well, just in case anybody's interested.
Yeah, awesome.
Thank you. Yeah, that's helpful. Yeah.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.
Thank you so much.
Thanks so much for having us.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Yeah. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.